So today I'll be talking with you about overthinking, and it's probably really obvious that overthinking and productivity do not go hand in hand, right? So we're going to talk about why that is. In particular, I'm going to share with you a quote about overthinking that I love, and then I'll share with you some tips on how to overcome overthinking. All right, ready? Let's go. Hi there, welcome to Breathe and Bloom, where we talk about all things growth, specifically how we can nourish various areas of our lives so that we can thrive and flourish in them. My name is Ashli, and if you don't know that, that suggests you are new here. And so I would like to welcome you and to encourage you to hit the subscribe button so that you are officially a part of this community and you will no longer be a newbie. Who wants that? Right? So the quote says, thinking too much leads to paralysis by analysis. It's important to think things through, but many use thinking as a means of avoiding action. And so I encourage you to think about your thinking, right? To practice some reflection, some metacognition, and to check whether you think about things too much or if you just think things through in order to plan better. There is a difference, and the line between them might be hard to find. But if you realize that your thinking things through leads to you not having enough time to actually do the things, or not having enough time to be productive, not reaching your goals, then that suggests that you are overthinking. Or if your overthinking is affecting your relationships, your well-being, your job, things like that, then we know it is problematic. So let's talk about what you can do if you find yourself overthinking. One thing I'll say is release the need for perfection. I think that's one of the reasons people spend a lot of time overthinking. And let me go ahead and confess. I myself am an overthinker. I keep it real, what can I say? Especially as it relates to interactions with people, relationships, friendships, anything like that. I'm always overthinking, well, what if I say something that offends? Or what if they misinterpret what I say? Or regardless of the area of your life that you overthink in, or if you overthink in multiple areas, then this tip, releasing the need for perfection, will help. Whether it's wanting to portray yourself as perfect or wanting to feel as perfect and equipped and adequate as possible, whether it's not wanting to fail or not wanting to be embarrassed or not wanting to be abandoned, whatever the feeling is that is leading you to being overly committed to perfection, then you've got to release that. You've got to identify what is causing that feeling, whether it's fear or it's anxiety or it is being too hard on yourself, whatever is causing the feeling or that drive for perfection, that overcommitment. Because I think it's good to aim for perfection, but if you're overcommitted to it where it's again hindering you, then you've got to let it go. So tip number 1 is release the need for perfection. Tip number 2 is think about all the ways it could go right. I think another reason a lot of us overthink is because we start coming up with 1,001 scenarios in our heads about what could go wrong. What could go wrong with the business, what could go wrong with the paper, what could go wrong with the book, with the channel, with the child, with the marriage, with the dating, with all that. So when you realize that you start thinking about what could go wrong, then I encourage you to think about what could go right. Think about the best case scenario. And, you know, if you need to write down make a column, 2 columns, get a piece of paper, put a line through the middle. On one side, write down what could go wrong. On the next side, write down what could go right so you can see it. Then do that. And that's related to tip number 3, which is move from thoughts to concrete. Get the stuff out of your head. If it's that you're planning for something and you keep on, you know, thinking ABC and then you wind up back at A, then write it down so that it's concrete, or talk to somebody about it so that you can, you know, in explaining, you'll get some linearity in your thoughts, and all that. So move from thoughts to concrete, and I would rephrase that to be just take action, just do the thing. If you recognize that you are overthinking, over means that you're doing more than what is needed. So that means you can go ahead and do the thing. So make the call or write the book or schedule the meeting. Do the thing. Do the thing. All right. Tip number 3, I believe, is we're actually on tip number 4. So tip number 4 is practice being mindful. And I think this relates to all of the other tips we've talked about before. So practice being present in the moment rather than thinking about the future and all that could go wrong, or all the ways you could fail, or thinking about the past, all that has gone wrong, or all the ways that whatever. Practice being present in the moment. And you know, one of the ways you can do that is by meditating. There are other ways you can do that. I actually talk about some in my video on mindfulness, so check that out if you haven't yet. But mindfulness meditation is a really helpful way to help you develop this habit of being present in the moment. I was doing a meditation practice recently, and the teacher talked about thinking about your thoughts as clouds. So you might want to just see a nice blue clear sky, but it's rare that that happens, right? Often some clouds are drifting by, right? A little thought comes on, and what do? You recognize that there is a cloud. You take a look at the cloud, and then you let it go. You let the cloud drift on by. So rather than being upset with yourself for not having a clear blue mind, you can just expect that clouds will arise. And when the clouds come up, then you just let them go. You let them be. Don't chastise yourself. Don't, wrestle with the cloud to try to burst it or whatever. Just let it be. I hope my little cloud metaphor made sense. So practice being mindful, being present in the moment. The final tip I want to share with you is to trust yourself and to trust God. I feel like the last 20 videos, maybe the last 2 videos, I've talked about trusting yourself and trusting God, because that is so important. So, maybe you're overthinking because you're afraid of failing. Trust the fact that you are equipped to handle it. You're equipped to succeed. You are able to grow. You're able to find additional resources. You're able to bounce back, all of that. So trust that you can do it. Trust that you are good enough. Just trust. And then trust God that He's got your back, right? With failure, with fear, with all that, He's got you and you're gonna be okay. Now, I'm talking about overthinking as it relates to productivity, but we can think about overthinking in a lot of different other contexts. And many of these tips will apply to whatever it is. So if it's overthinking as far as relationships, trust yourself, trust God. release the need to be perfect, right? Take action. Maybe you realize that you're overthinking because you don't know the other person well enough. So take action, pull out the phone and send a text, or, you know, whatever it might be. Think about all the ways it could go right and practice being mindful. So instead of sitting with the person thinking about the worst case scenario, then think about the ways it could go right. So that's just one example of how you can apply these tips to something other than being productive. So I want to end this video by just sharing this quote with you again. It says, "Thinking too much leads to paralysis by analysis. It's important to think things through, but many use thinking as a means of avoiding action." Is that you, sis, brother? Be gracious to yourself, put these tips into practice, and just do it. You'll be all right. So if you've made it to this point of the video, please go ahead and hit the like button if you have not yet. That will give me an indication that you are liking this type of content and I should continue sharing this type of thing. Also, please leave a comment down below letting me know what you think. Are these tips realistic? Are these things you will try? Are these things that have worked for you? And of course, if you have other ideas of things for me to talk about, please let me know. This is actually something that someone asked about, and I'm always happy to talk about those things. So I pray today that you will have a very blessed and a very productive day. I pray that you will reflect on your thoughts, on your state of mind, and that you will put these tips into practice if you need them, so that you can move from overthinking to being productive. Until next time, continue to breathe and to bloom, and take care.